Hey, I'm Stephanie Hunt. Welcome to The Cult of Flair, where I chat with creators from all walks of life about the meaning of personal style, fearless individuality, unexpected paths, and insights into finding your flair. Alongside my in-depth interview series, you'll also find snackable short episodes. I do love my snacks. I call these my Flair on the Fly. I'll be serving up tips, musings, or insightful nuggets designed to expand your knowledge and to share the flair. Welcome back to The Cult of Flair. Today, I am delighted to have my guest, Missy Kelly. Missy is quite the accomplished entrepreneur, business leader, and community advocate. She's widely recognized as the co-founder and CEO of CatTongue Grips, a global leader in providing non-abrasive, non-slip products that prevent items, people, animals, and cargo from slipping, sliding, spilling, and dropping. Under her leadership, CatTongue Grips has become the go-to brand for high-performance, non-slip products, serving a diverse range of industries. And when I met Missy, she was a real estate agent in partnership with her husband, a yoga teacher, a mom, so many more things, like all of us. But it's the evolution of her career and her entrepreneurship that just kills me. In addition to her work at CatTongue Grips, Missy's commitment to her community extends beyond her professional work. She serves on the Dean's Advisory Board for the College of Arts and Sciences at UC Boulder. She's on the Board of Trustees at the Winter Sports School of Park City. And despite her busy schedule, Missy finds inspiration in the incredible entrepreneurs she encounters. She lives not far from me in Park City, Utah, with her husband, Matt. She has 2 kids who are now in college, 2 dogs, and what I love is her motto, live life, love hard, and do epic shit. And I'm allowed to swear on my podcast because it's my podcast. Which I think this motto is a testament to her unyielding spirit and dedication to making a positive impact on the world around her. Welcome, Missy.
Thank you, Steph. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so happy you're here.
It's
Typically,
fun.
we see each other, it used to be frequently. Now it's like once a year hikes in the fall, but we cover so much.
And the grocery store.
And the grocery store, we run into each other.
Yeah.
But I love that on our hikes, we cover so much ground, literally and figuratively, because mostly as like fellow entrepreneurs, women, you're a little younger than me, but like sort of at this same stage of life, doing things that aren't necessarily whatever the word is I'm looking for, I don't know, not necessarily what everybody else might be doing, which is starting and growing a business that when I first met you, well, I already said, when I first met you, you were doing one thing. When you started CatTongue Grips, to my knowledge, I understood it, even if you had bigger plans for it, it was a phone grip with super cool graphic patterns on it that would keep your phone from sliding around in the car if you set it on your center console. Like, that's what I thought this company was. And I am so curious about the evolution of this because even though my business is design, I'm obsessed with people's life design and how they evolve and what they do. So talk to us about how it went from the idea in your head, sort of bring us up to speed. I know that's like a big thing, but like, tell me what you want to tell me.
Of course. It started when my husband walked into a Verizon store to upgrade his phone, and he just noticed how slippery the back of the phone was. He made a comment to the salesperson. She, of course, tried to sell him insurance, and not wanting another bill, the light bulb went off. And he drove to the nearby skateboard store and literally just bought skateboard grip tape and threw it on the back of his phone.
If you told me this, I've forgotten this. This is a great, as like a skater mom, skater wife, meaning I'm not a skater, but my people are, I have forgotten this whole piece of the story.
Well, we're from San Diego.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so he grew up surfing, skating.
Yeah.
So he put the skateboard grip tape on the back of the phone, and later on that night, I felt it. I said, what do you have going on here? This feels like a cat tongue, and it's going to scratch every surface of the house. Like, you can't have it on the back of your phone. Well, he challenged me to find something like it, being the shopper in the house. I couldn't. So we decided to make it. And we sourced a manufacturer.
Remind me how many years ago this was.
This was in February of 2015 when he walked into the store. So it took about 6-7 months of research, and we found a manufacturer, had a meeting with him, and he said, yeah, I'll create a material for you. And it took about, I'd say, 8-9 prototypes. We wanted it to feel good in the hands.
Right.
We wanted it to be grippy, not sticky, so that, weird sand stuff that men find in their pockets or women have in their purse. And so we also wanted to create a recyclable product that would not
I didn't know that there was a sustainable
for
element
the
to this.
environment. So yes, it's an actual recyclable HDPE plastic.
And what drew me to it, besides the visual of my own phone when I would take like a sharp turn going flying and then I couldn't even reach it, but were your graphics, because you would show me some of the things you were working on that I thought were so cool.
Funny because it started because
I
Matt and I wanting
pattern.
fun, cool patterns. Well, what happened was, what was the bestseller? Black. What was the second bestseller? Clear.
That is crazy.
And it's so we realized we had this. And we went from phone grip to tablet, laptop grips.
Mm-hmm.
But then customers started reaching out and saying, and at the time, I'm customer service, right?
Right.
We're everything in a startup.
And you're working kind of out of your home garage, right?
Oh, 100%.
Everything was like home base.
Everything. And so people were saying, hey, can I cut this and use it on tools? Can I use it under furniture? One woman said, could I cut it and use it on my son's hearing aids? Because he has atraxia and he can't grip very well. And so that's when we had the idea to put this material, which is what the customer was really after, on a roll.
Okay.
That they can cut it and use it for
so it's like
anything.
like a tape almost.
It's
right?
like a grip tape. However, we like to say it's like our gripping material on a roll.
Okay.
That because a tape you kind of wrap up and use a lot of. This is depending on whatever you want. And so we launched the Gription roll in fall of 2019.
Okay.
And then from there,
which is 4 years after.
From the inception. So we launched the phone grip in November of 2017.
Okay.
And then we launched the Gription roll in November of 2019. And I met a gentleman named Chris Waddell, Paralympian.
Yes.
He
an incredible human.
Amazing human. And he is in a wheelchair. And he said to me, stuff falls off my lap all day, every day. I could use your products. So from there, I gave him some, checked in, and he said, you've created a life hack for my community. So to be able to use the material on his wheelchair foot plates and wear socks without scratching up his socks for the first time, and using it in the car, on his electronic devices, on his hand cycle that he pedals with. So
because he's such an athlete.
And he uses our product on all of those different apparatuses to help him in his day-to-day living.
Right.
So it was, how can we help even more people in their day-to-day lives? So it just became a greater mission for the company to truly help people improve their day-to-day
then it's
living.
Going from like a convenience thing for a phone or a laptop or whatever to, I won't say disability, but like ability, whatever we...
Well, just anyway, whether you have hand mobility issues or you're worried about your mom and dad or dad, aging parent slipping in a shower.
Right.
Using it for your own use under cutting boards in the kitchen. If you're an RV, if you're a camper, even motorcycle gas tanks, when people slide forward, a little bit of our tape there. I mean, we even had, this is funny, you'll love this. We had a customer who wrote in with a 5-star review that said they used it on the ramp of their chicken coop, and their chickens are so happy. They're not sliding around and they're running up and down. That was one that stuck in my head because who knew? We're helping the chickens.
Can I tell you this? That we built a dog shower with a ramp in our garage. And the dogs can't even get up the ramp because the ramp is so slippery with glazed tile.
I'm like, some Gription on that, and they will. Yeah,
and the feeling of it doesn't bother their paws.
Oh no, it's great. It's actually, veterinarians are using the product on their exam tables.
So the idea that you started with one thing, it's this whole like, you might not see it at the time, but connecting the dots, looking backward, the Steve Jobs, speech at Stanford all those years ago. I just think it's really remarkable. Your chapter next, and I mean, I'm going to guess that while you had young kids at home and were this amazing yogi.
Oh, they were put to work.
Teaching me like yoga on my rooftop deck and hiking and selling real estate. Like, would you have had any idea that you would create this company that would, I mean,
Oh, no.
because your accounts are Amazon, Home Depot, right? Like,
Well, we have actually 3 different channels. We have that wholesale retail channel with Lowe's, Ace stores, Do It Best stores. I've been on QVC several times.
I know, I've seen you, I've watched you, and
you know,
you so inspired me because I was terrified of doing live TV, and then I had to do it. Well, I got to do some things, and I said yes to it. But honestly, I was inspired by you because I was like, I'm terrified and I'm going to pass out. But the fact that Missy did this on QVC, which is such a larger audience, I can do this. I remember even talking to you about what you wore.
Yeah.
You were like, wear a solid color, wear a bright color.
Exactly. That's what they had told me. But yeah, that's all that wholesale retail and of course Amazon, but then also selling B2B to large corporations like SpaceX, Northrop Grumman. The product's been to space. We don't know how, but they use it in their program, but it's totally confidential because it's actually Blue Origin who's used the product.
Right.
And then and many others. And then now selling into the U.S. Navy.
That's what I was going to ask, and based on one of our past conversations, now another development has been the military, right?
Yeah. It seems a natural progression of how this concept of safety, of how we, with the product CatTongue Grips, she improves safety in the home, safety for facilities and for people in organizations, and now for the U.S. government, which is a entirely different,
Whole
level
different animal
of safety.
Right.
I mean, how thrilling for us that something we created as a phone grip
in your garage
could possibly
and
save
table.
lives too.
And is it more? Maybe it's confidential and you don't know, like the space applications. But is it like an aircraft carrier? Is it jets, or do you know?
No.
On
the military side, definitely on ships.
Okay.
Yeah, safety is a big one. A lot of like ladder wells, at cargo, again, keeping things from slipping and sliding. So it's a new channel for us, but extremely exciting.
Not to be all woo-woo, but do you feel like you manifested this in any way?
Of course.
Of course you do.
Of course I did.
I love that.
Yeah. If you have a thought,
right,
and then taking that inspired action. And truly...
wait, say that again.
So you're having a thought or idea.
Okay.
Right? And then that desire. The desire has to be key. And then from that desire, taking inspired action daily.
Right.
Toward this vision.
Lots of people have thoughts and ideas that don't end up anywhere because they can't keep moving forward.
Oh, yeah. And most importantly, right, just being open to wherever the journey takes. If we had thought, no, this is a phone grip, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Or if you had this idea for a phone grip and maybe that day or month thought, like, we're going to get this into the U.S. military, maybe that would have been way too overwhelming.
No, and I think everything happened over the last 7 years, we wouldn't have been ready for that back then either. Where now we are a global company. So we sell in Australia and New Zealand and Peru and the UK. So it seems like a natural progression that we could handle the demand that some of these larger partners demand.
Is it manufactured domestically, internationally, everywhere?
The product actually comes from the UK, the material, and then everything's sliced, diced, and distributed here in the US.
And you... I mean, I feel like, I know you did not go get a PhD, but I feel like you have had like multiple PhDs in learning how to be
like
a business owner, CEO, like all the things.
I'm building the plane as I fly it, baby.
That is the quote I'm going to remember because I think I'm also building planes as I fly them, but I've never heard it put in those words.
Yeah.
So I love what I learned from my guests, even how they articulate things that I'm like, wait a minute, I'm doing that.
A mentor of mine told me that too.
That is so good.
And it's also that old adage she says as well is don't worry, be crappy. Because if you're worried too much about the perfection, then it's almost an ideal you can't obtain.
And
it'll never happen. It's really easy to say, okay, we'll do this when. We'll launch this when. But it's just you've got to get it out there.
That's really
and
good.
For us, we've learned from our customers of what product. I mean, we launched a glow-in-the-dark product recently that the customer was asking for, so that's what we provided.
Okay. And I mean, like, I'll say to my team, like, and I didn't make this up, clearly I read it, but like progress over perfection. Because I know that I will
love that too.
I will get
That's
completely paralyzed over not being able to do it right.
Yeah.
And then you don't go anywhere. So it's like you just got to start and then don't worry, be crappy. It's hilarious.
Exactly.
As a CEO of the company, can you talk to us about some of the biggest challenges you faced in scaling the business and how did you overcome them? Or like one example of that.
I think getting out of my own way.
Yeah.
I tend to be perfectionistic.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to like to control my environment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my growth as a leader and as I've expanded, that's how the company's been able to expand as well. So really taking
That's a great lesson.
You know, it is.
And trusting,
when you're
trusting
building
that
a team.
other people can do things that you might not be able to do either because of the knowledge that you have or the time. Like we can't, if we're all spread so thin, like you can't do anything well.
Well, exactly. And being able to be in a meeting and understand, okay, I have a way of doing things, but if it's my way or the highway, we're not going to learn maybe a better way of doing it, which that's for me, I do think that's been my biggest growth is really growing into leaning on my team and leaning on that it doesn't have to be me. And that's delegating too, because as an entrepreneur, we tend to want to do it all. Yeah. And you have to be able to let go and
do you feel like
let
any
others
of
do
this,
it
I
and
hadn't even thought of
participate
this
too.
as a question, but just listening to you and because I know we're both moms and our kids are close in age, do you feel like any of these things that you've learned and experienced have also affected your parenting in a good way? Like,
oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I do. I have my youngest is just going to be a freshman in college, and that was something we're empty nesters.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have said to me, you know, how do you feel expecting it to be this, dramatic thing where I feel like I've raised my kids to fly, right? And as long as they're happy, I'm happy. And that goes again with the business. I mean,
Yeah,
I call her
that's a
a
great
she.
point.
And I mean, she's got her. I mean, she's going this way, that way, and I'm along for the ride too. But if I am in my own way, then we wouldn't be where we are today.
Right.
And I feel like I'm trying to control my kids' paths.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to control my
That's
business path.
You know what? That's a great
right?
takeaway. How it could affect the family dynamics also in a positive way. Because so many people are focused on balancing it all. And
I feel balance is a farce. It's never. You cannot have everything.
No, and I love that you brought that up because that is also one of my questions because I know you serve on so many boards in the community and then balancing this and that. And I love to talk to fellow moms, women, female business owners, everybody, men too. But do you believe that balance is realistic? And I just don't.
I don't.
I don't think you can do everything well all at once.
Have it all.
Right, but not all at the
feel
same
that.
time.
But no, I think you can have it all at the same time, in my opinion.
Okay, I love that.
However, I do feel like, we had I can say it, 2021. My husband tore his ACL. My daughter, she was a ski racer, tore her ACL.
Oh my gosh.
3 days after he had surgery.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know this.
When, they have 2 injuries in the home, was the business... It was not going to have my all, right?
No.
My family had my all.
Right.
I feel like something is always pushing to the forefront. Sometimes it's me because I feel that I am unapologetic that I come first.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not okay and I'm not centered and I am not giving myself the care I need, everything else, family, kids, business will fall apart.
Right.
So I'm very honest about that in that I come first.
Did you have to learn that? Or were you somebody who kind of all the time knew that?
No, I think I learned that just over time and really age, wisdom.
Definitely.
Knowing
age,
what
wisdom,
I need.
experience. And, and being able to speak up about it instead of, I feel like the whole wellness, instead of feeling like it's an indulgence or it's selfish, it's like, no, this is critically necessary to keep everything else going.
I think that it's not in a selfish way.
No.
It's actually in a very giving way because the more my well is full, the more other people can drink out of it.
Right.
Right.
Right. I know you're also super passionate about mentoring other entrepreneurs or business owners, people starting businesses. Talk to me about that. Were you always that way, or was it just sort of after seeing the help that you've received from others? Because I feel that, but I feel like it's because I noticed people who helped me and then noticed people who didn't want to help me. And it makes me very passionate about wanting people to help me.
Well, I feel that if you come at life with a go-giver attitude, a go-giver philosophy, that it's going to come back to you.
I haven't heard go-giver. I've heard
it's an amazing book.
What's go-giver?
A go-giver is you're not coming into a situation or circumstance of what's in it for me. It's how I can support you.
Wow.
And if you come at life with that mentality, it's going to come back tenfold to you.
One of my questions was going to be about like a favorite book, and now I'm already going to know that answer because I am going to remember that and read that. That sounds like an amazing book.
And it's a great one to give kids that are graduating high school too. It's an easy read. It's awesome. But my mentor, I have several, but one of them that's a favorite. And she introduced that to me, and I feel that. I didn't come from a business background. You talk about I'm a, poli-sci international relations double major.
Right. I know I'm journalism and French.
I was in sales. Yeah, I was in sales. I taught yoga. I was a stay-at-home mom. I did philanthropy. Like all these different things, which I do feel all the breadcrumbs, everything prepared me for what I'm doing now.
You're using all of it.
But yeah, I feel like if I can make it easier for someone else and pave the way and, not make some of the mistakes that we did in the early days or even continue to do.
And in the karmic sense, it's going to come back to you.
100%.
That's what I believe.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I feel that in the work I do with women-owned businesses, not only on the national level, but also here in Utah with We Back West, I just love giving back and helping others.
How did you find your mentors, or how did they find you? Was it through some of these organizations that you are a member of?
It is. Yeah. I always say it's just kind of synchronistic. Like everything with my journey, when doors open, it's just kind of what's behind this door. Where are we going today, right?
Being open to it.
Yeah, being open to it. And I have found that when people connect me to others and then they're helping me, that's what makes me want to help others too.
100%. And I even think people that you meet, and I know some people are super strategic, and I mean, opportunistic is such a loaded word because it can have like good perceptions and bad ones. But I feel like just being open to meeting people and not even necessarily like, like the go-giver versus whatever.
Right.
You never know who you're going to meet and learn something from. They might have nothing to do with your career, your socioeconomic background, nothing. But everyone, I believe, friend, family, stranger, you learn something from if you're open to it.
I agree.
Yeah.
100%.
Let's talk about your motto, which I love. Live life, love hard, and do epic shit. How does this philosophy guide you in your personal life and career? I feel like you kind of already answered some of it.
I just love
I feel like you're
living life fearlessly.
I was just about to say, sorry to cut you off, you are one of the least fearful people I know, or at least you give that energy off. Not in a cocky, like, I can do everything better than anybody else. You don't give off that energy at all.
I think we all have fear. We all have questions and doubts of, am I worthy? Do I deserve this? Letting fear, bubble up. However, for me, it's using that fear as a fire. And I've learned along the way, I call it stepping into the uncomfortable zone. Because if we're not getting uncomfortable, we're not growing. And if we're not growing, we're not experiencing and we're not living. And that's that doing epic shit and having those opportunities that come my way that sometimes like, I can't do that. Well, why can't you?
Right.
Why not me? And just having that conversation with myself and realizing that, okay, I'm going to say yes to these opportunities that push me, allow me to push boundaries, stretch, and grow. And whether that's, saying yes to a retreat in Nepal.
Right.
Or...
Which I know you went on because you sent me really cool photos.
I mean, that's amazing. I had just a complete dream to see Mount Everest with my own eyes. And then to have this ability to go and being like, yes. That's epic. And I'm going to do it.
Can you give me an example of how you use fear to light a fire? And do you sleep through the night? Do you ever wake up at 2:00 in the morning, which is when when everything gets really quiet and then I wake up, that's when I can do the like future tripping, like, oh my gosh, like all the things come like flooding in, which I know is a bit of anxiety and a bit of fear, but like, do you use that fear to sort of go, okay, I'm going to make sure that I'm prepared better or more, or?
Well, for me, preparation is key.
Yeah.
But perfection is control freak.
Yeah.
If I feel prepared, then I feel like I'm armed and ready to go.
Yeah.
But what you're saying, I love to sleep. Mm-hmm. Sleep's one of the things that
I'm obsessed with sleep because I don't sleep much.
Love it. And I actually sleep really, really well.
Unmedicated?
Unmedicated. The only time I don't sleep is if I've had a glass of wine too close to when I should be going to sleep.
Right.
And then I'm pissed in the morning because I didn't sleep and I know why.
Yeah, you know why.
Yeah. But but I also think that when you don't sleep, that is an indicator of maybe you have to slow down somewhere. I use when I don't sleep as an indicator that something's a little off. Mm-hmm. And needing to find what that is, and being that scientist or that observer of myself, right? To be like, why didn't I sleep last night?
Someone taught me literally in the last 24 hours. There's something called like SSS, short sleeper syndrome, or
I
something
think that some people don't sleep.
Because I'm literally not tired during the day.
Yeah.
But I do not sleep more than 4 to 6 hours. It's more the fear of now there is connecting, like, the importance of sleep with longevity and wellness. So it's freaking me out. But so I'm looking at it all, but I always am obsessed with people who sleep unmedicated 8 to 10 hours a day.
And when you talk about that fear, like, for sure, when I'm doing something uncomfortable, I know you. Right. So this is just like having a conversation, but it could be uncomfortable, mm-hmm. right? Or I feel like I had the opportunity to do a large speaking engagement. And that first...
How big was the audience?
It was a commencement at University of Colorado.
Oh, my God.
So it was for poli-sci, so it was about 1,200 people it would be. And, the first day he asked, and I was like...
I know,
it was an email.
No, I'm busy.
And I read it, I was like, oh, I can't do that. And then it's that, well, why can't you? Mm-hmm. You're having this opportunity come your way. Mm-hmm. What, you're going to say no? Just because you're uncomfortable about what you're going to be doing. And it ended up being one of those highlight experiences of my life.
And even when those things have been coming to me, certainly not a commencement address, because that gives me like panic even thinking of doing that. But things that have come my way that my first reaction is like, I can't do that. That seems terrifying. I have started focusing on how disappointed I'm going to feel in myself when that opportunity goes past and I had said no, instead of just like coming from a place of yes and mm-hmm. leaning in, and also reminding myself, like, what is the worst thing that can happen? Am I going to die?
Is
this
say.
going
what
to kill me
if
my voice shakes or I pass out, whatever? Mm-hmm. No, I'm going to have a hilarious story to tell someday after dying of embarrassment, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I have one. I actually did do a pitch it was about 500 corporations in the room.
Whoa.
And it was a 90-second pitch. And I was so prepared. Like, I was going to nail this. I'm picturing like Shark Tank. I'm going to nail it. And I get up there, and I was wearing this wrap dress, and I have the microphone, and I glance down, and the entire
Were you like Janet Jackson? Oh my God.
The entire bow is undone. And I'm like, and fortunately, I'm still wrapped. And then I have this entire blank, right? And I said, words came out of my mouth, but I don't know what they were. And then afterwards, I was talking to my husband, Matt, and he's like, how'd it go? And I was like,
you're like, I don't remember. I've trauma blocked it.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
And I go, but the funny thing is, the very next morning, Walmart was in that audience, and whatever I said, he came to the booth and wanted to learn about the product, and that's how we got into Walmart.
Wow.
So something for me, which was an absolute fail, was not a fail at all. Yeah. It was just not the way I intended it to be.
Okay,
so I feel like that's
such a lesson. I love that you're sharing this story.
It's that failing forward, right?
Right.
Like, what you just never know what's around the corner.
And he wasn't a customer because your dress unwrapped because it didn't unwrap.
Like I said, it was not exposed, but it was that fear of exposure that completely took over my brain, and I was not in the moment of my pitch I had prepared.
Oh my gosh. What is the best piece of business advice? I mean, I know that you have received so much, but is there one specific or one or two
for sure
that you can think of?
It's a marathon, not a sprint. You know, I think that's the hardest thing I've had to learn. You know, I have my vision for where I want the company to go. I see it, I feel it, I live it every day. However, things don't happen the way as fast as I would like them to. And that's what you have to understand. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
And it's such a good reminder. Even before we started recording, you and I were talking about the podcast. And I was saying, like, we'd been talking about a podcast, thinking about a podcast, people saying you should have a podcast for over 2 years. And I just could never get it together. Too busy doing other things, a little bit afraid, didn't have the right people in place, like didn't understand the technology. Like, and I love your quote, which sounds a lot more professional than mine, but my favorite rapper quote is Dr. Dre. A dream doesn't have a deadline.
No.
Maybe he didn't make it up, but I know he said it.
No. And I do feel timing's everything on that, right?
Yeah, it happens when it's supposed to happen.
Exactly.
What is your favorite way to unwind after a long day? Now we're going to get into like silly, fun questions.
Oh, long day. Hanging out with my 3 dogs, my husband, reading a good book.
I was going to say, are you a TV watcher? Do you binge anything on Netflix?
I'm more of a reader.
Okay.
Although if there's something popular on Netflix, I'll dive into that for sure.
Yeah.
But usually someone has to tell me about it.
I can give you lots.
Yeah. Oh, good.
I'm a streaming junkie. Like
I love
if there was like a support group or like a something anonymous, it could be like SA Streamers Anonymous. Like I'm like, what can I watch now? And then I get so sad when the whole season is over or the whole series is over. If you weren't running CatTongue Grips, what would you be doing?
Oh,
and it doesn't even have to be logical.
Yeah, what would I be doing? I would be finding some way to serve others, some way to help. I realize that through CatTongue Grips, that's been a calling for mine, and you know the vision is to help millions of people in their day-to-day living. So that's a calling to me. So I don't know if I wasn't doing it through my business or company, I'd be doing that some other way.
Do you think either of your kids will come work in the business? Do they have any desire, or do you have
a
desire for them to do it?
They grew up in those early days. They were put
like
to work.
No chance. Yeah, that's like my kids.
They were packaging.
That's like my kids for my husband in finance.
Yeah,
they're like, that's a hard no.
Yeah, I think that's a hard no.
Okay, what's next for CatTongue Grips, if you're able to say? Or is there something that you want to talk about that's a development?
I think it's government and military.
Do you travel a lot for it?
I do.
Is it international or national? I mean, I know you went to Nepal.
It's mostly national. Okay. International, no, not yet. But I travel quite a bit. I love to travel. Adventure, travel, new cultures.
Right. All of it. Something we have in common.
That's my jam.
This or that. Cheetos or fill in the blank. What's your favorite junk food?
Favorite junk? I'm a baked goods junkie.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you give me a really good cookie or brownie or lemon bar.
It has to involve flour, sugar, butter, and probably cinnamon.
Definitely.
But if it's not cinnamon, it could be like a blueberry scone or something like that.
Any of those. I love my baked goods.
I used to love gummy bears and licorice and all those things, but it's got to be like a baked goods.
Yeah.
So it's more sweet than salty. Early to bed, late to bed?
I'm an early to bed. Early to bed, early to rise.
Yeah, same here. I'm in bed by 9, and sometimes it's hard to stay in bed.
Yeah, I'm usually 9:30. Yeah, is my wind down.
What's the weirdest or most unusual job you've had in your life? Like,
I rented boogie boards on the beach
in La Jolla.
Yeah,
or
actually Mission Beach. I was 16.
And I bet I can envision 16-year-old Missy,
16, 17.
super hot, getting all the boys to rent boogie boards. That's amazing. Oh my gosh,
that was actually I'd say my first experience in delegation for sure, because it was really as a young, slight, thin girl pulling out all the boogie boards, the kayaks, and everything.
Right.
So it was down in Mission Beach, and which has a significant homeless population. So I enlisted their help. Oh. And they would help me. And then I would give them I'd give them a chair for the day. And they would hang out. And so,
oh my gosh, talk about the early seeds of leadership. Like, that's incredible.
And my boss was caught wind of what was happening here. And he was funny. He said, I'm cool with this. But can you tell them just a little bit away from the tent? Because I learned their stories, and some were really, just interesting. Like
okay, that is really cool.
Yeah,
I love this so much.
For the day.
Last question: what is your definition of flair, or what does it mean for you for somebody to have flair, like a character quality?
I think it's being bold, being fearless, pushing boundaries, willing to step into that uncomfortable zone.
Yeah. Right. Look a little foolish, potentially fail. I feel like there's no failures.
Yeah.
Like everything leads you to the next thing. Where can people find you, either personally or the business on social media when they want to know more about you, which they will?
For sure. CatTongueGrips.com. And then for me, Missy Kelly, I'm on LinkedIn. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
I always love our conversations.
So fun.
To be continued on our next hike in the fall colors of Park City.
Let's do it.
I love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to today's episode of The Cult of Flair. I'm Stephanie Hunt. If you like what you heard, please share it with a friend. Follow the podcast on whatever platforms you are listening. Follow me on Instagram at The Flair Hunter or at The Cult of Flair. And until next time, go find your flair.